Welcome back to another episode of the Brett Snodgrass podcast. I have a very special guest for you guys today, Mr. Jermemy Brown from South Dakota. He is the CEO of Throne Publishing Group, and they are here to publish your book. So you guys are going to want to hear this today. Before I get into that, go over to the Brett Snodgrass channel on YouTube and subscribe. Leave a comment, and I love responding to comments every single week, guys. So make sure you guys do that. Jermemy Brown, CEO of Throne Publishing Group. He's a skilled interviewer, publisher, entrepreneur. He's an author himself. He's passionate about connecting with people and drawing out their story and empowering them to get their story written. He is best friends with his wife, Brooke Brown, who is also his business partner. They are the parents of 4 strong boys, and together they have published over 350 books in over 20 countries. So if you guys are the 8 out of 10 people that want to write a book, let's get to our interview now with Mr. Jermemy Brown. What's going on, Jermemy?
Hey, Brett, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here, and I'm excited to have some fun with you.
Yeah, me too, man. I was just reading through your bio and your family, and our core values just really line up, man. Man of faith, 4 kids just like me, and entrepreneurship. So it's just a blast having you on here, and I'm really interested, especially at this point in my life, about your topic. So you own a company, Throne Publishing Group. Kind of started this company many years ago, and you help entrepreneurs, business leaders, and really anyone kind of tell their stories through books. So tell us a little bit about Throne Publishing Group.
Yeah, I'll say it got started, Brett, because I was trying to solve my own problem. Really, I had no experience, even interest in publishing, but I went to write my first book, and that's kind of what started the whole thing. So I was in my early 20s, and like everybody in their early 20s, at least me, I thought I owed it to the world to put all my wisdom and experiences into a book. And so I went and said, really, I had a consulting company at the time, and I just wanted to grow the business. So I was like, if I become an author, I'm going to be an expert, at least perceived. Mm-hmm. And so, and it definitely was perceived because I wasn't an expert. But I went to write the book in a coffee shop and realized I don't know how to write. And so there was a short between the keyboard and the chair, as they say, and that was me. But I said, I don't want to write, but I could talk about this stuff all day. Mm-hmm. And so I just simply solved my own problem. I made a really structured interview or a structured outline, and then I paired interview questions with my outline so that as I answered the questions, my answers became the book. Mm. And it's like, if we ask ourselves good questions, we get good answers. Yeah. So I just what I did. And I got that book written in a weekend. And then my business went from local, regional to just about 20 countries in a year's time. And people asked, like, how did this happen? What did you do? And I said, well, I wrote this book. I published this book. And they asked me a really interesting question. They just said, hey, would you do that for me? And I thought, wow, like this would be a great business for my 20s, I thought, because I couldn't afford to go to school. I was a single dad, not living a life of faith whatsoever or even interested in it. And I just thought, if I can interview these people about what's made them successful and their story and learn from them and make money at the same time, I thought, great, I'll totally do it. And then I started, writing that book changed my life. And I think that's the key, Brett, is it was a life change for me. And I thought, if I can do that for other people, that is going to be a great business. Maybe I certainly wasn't thinking for 15 years now. I've been in the industry, 10 years with Throne. But the key is I was trying to this year make a mission statement, because I'm like, we've never really had a mission, because I've always, to me, it's been really clear. And I finally said, I'm not going to make a mission statement. Our mission is our people. That's really it. Mm-hmm. And I've told that to my team, to everybody that we talk with, like, that's what gets us excited. And when you talk about longevity, energy, being just an attractive person to work with, of like enjoyable to work with, if you really love your people and you really want to see them win and you get your energy from that, seeing them win, you're going to be successful, as long as you just don't quit when you have the valleys, which you're all going to have. So that's a little bit about Throne. And I'll tell you why I like books, because we could really help our people, which I love entrepreneurs. I love the whole business. We work with really successful entrepreneurs. So it's challenging because their expectations are huge. And I like that too, though, but it is challenging. So we could do a lot of businesses. Why I do books is because it gets people an ROI today. Like, they're going to grow their business they're gonna like, it's a business development tool is how I think about books. You're gonna sell them, but you're gonna make your income, your money, that ROI from all the derivative things that happen when you become an author. But also, if we do it right, it's something that our kids as kids are going to pick up and read and be impacted by. And it forces us into this conversation almost of, how do I want to be remembered? And I should be doing that today. I want to be doing that today. So it's almost like we're marketing our businesses. We're talking about what we're doing in the light of, my kids as kids are going to read this. So I really want to live today how I want to be remembered long term. That's why I love the book business.
Yeah. And I think if you probably asked anybody on the planet if they had a desire to have a book about their experience, about their wisdom, there would be a large percentage that would say yes, absolutely, right? Yeah, and you probably know the answer to that.
8 out of 10 people want to write a book.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But the reality is that most people don't, and you're exactly right that it builds kind of that credibility piece, to put your thoughts and experiences into a book. And I want to backtrack. You mentioned you sat down at your laptop and you started to ask yourself these questions, and you started to answer these questions, and then you said that you wrote this book in a weekend. So I want to talk about that, because writing a book to me is like, wow, that is a 9-month process. I don't know whatever number it is. Yeah. It's a long process, but you obviously did it relatively a short amount of time. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, usually on the short end, it takes about 100 hours. And so I heard a quote once, I don't know who it was by, but he said, writing a book is easy. All you have to do is stare at a piece of paper long enough until your forehead bleeds. And it really is that difficult. So I'm like, and this is why I say we like to find books in the wild by people who would never have written a book before, because they're not writers. They're doing their businesses. But that's where some of the best content comes from. So we just had to find a way to capture it. So, I mean, when I wrote that, going back to that first book piece, I just knew if I ask myself powerful questions, I'll create powerful answers. Mediocre questions, mediocre answers. So I didn't think about, and this is the key, I think, Brett, it's not about how do I write the best book. It's how do I ask myself the right questions in the right sequence to draw the very best out of me. Because if you give any question you give your brain, it's going to look for answers, right or wrong. And so I don't look at it like, how can I write the best material? I look at it as, how can I, number one, answer the right questions, but also you have to be focused on the people. So it comes back to the people again. That's what we help our authors do. As I say, we want to write to one person, that one person you're called to, that you're speaking into, that you're pouring into, and just do that as naturally as you can. And we're going to capture it for you, put it into the written word. But even if somebody's writing it on their own, you want to get really crystal clear on, who do I feel called to right now? I don't think God calls us to do something as much as he calls us to a people. And then according to what the people need determines what we do. So think about that person, that people group, visualize them, talk to them. And if you can do that, the book's going to be just fine. It doesn't need to be a masterpiece even. Like my first book, absolutely horrible book. I have a copy back there just to make fun of myself, but also the second copy in circulation is in my dad's bathroom. So, that's really great. That's how great it was. But it changed my life. And I think when somebody's thinking about doing their first book or even their second or their third, usually it's just about getting in the game. It's about just doing it, getting it out there. And, you want to do it as high quality as you can right now. But no matter how good you are today, in 5 years, you're going to go, I wish I'd have said a couple things differently.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah. So you talk about it changed your life. So let's just talk about that. So I know it changed your life. It seemed like in the business, gave you a lot of credibility, but did it change your life in other ways?
Yeah. So, the book just got me into a whole bunch of deal flow. And here's what happened is I wrote the book, my business did what it did. Then I started a publishing company. Then I partnered with some people and brought in some investors into the business. And then that's when I thought, at that point in my life, Brett, to me, being a man meant money, women, and business. That was my definition of manhood. I didn't know that was my definition. That's what I was pursuing. And so I got into a situation where I found out through a mentor that I didn't even know was mentoring me, because I didn't want a mentor back then. He was like, I think something's going on with your business partner. And so I come to find out my partner had been embezzling money from the business, lots of money. And so I ended up selling the business. So I lost the business. I lost all the money I had, and I lost the girl I thought I was going to marry. She dumped me and I couldn't get her back. So money, women in business, all gone. And I wasn't, I'd been born and raised in church. I've been Catholic, Lutheran, all that. But Jesus to me was this dude with babies and lambs, and I didn't want to have anything to do with him. And so, but I got to that point and I thought, man, I'm not just bad at business. I kind of suck at life. And so I picked up this book by John Eldredge called Fathered by God. I had it right on my desk here just a little bit ago. And in there, he has a chapter called Warrior. And he quotes Exodus 15:3, which says, the Lord is a warrior. And I never heard of that before. And I remember reading that going, man, if this is the way this guy is, I want to know everything about him, because I felt like that's what I wanted to be. So now I saw him as, I want to be like him. So I didn't know this was prayer, but at that time I just said, well, I'm going to let go of every dream, every goal that I have. And I'm going to do the bare bones I need to just pay the bills, which was like 10 hours a week. I'll do publishing for about 10, 15 hours a week. And then every spare second I have is going to be dedicated to knowing who this guy is, why he made me, and what he wants to do with me. And I'm going to ask him every day why he made me until he either answers or tells me to stop asking. And he ultimately did both. But that's when I started to do that. And I mean, in my community here, people thought I worked for like multiple churches because I was just always around. I'd show up and go, what needs to be done? What do you need? And then God started to meet me there, and he started sending all kinds of young dudes my way. And it was young men, usually fatherless, totally train wrecks in their life. And I saw everything you can think of, Brett, from just really struggling to human traffickers, drug dealers, addicts, in and out of prison, should be in prison and they're somehow out, the whole thing. And we ended up mentoring like a couple hundred guys. We started a nonprofit called Warrior. And that's what I did for all those years. And not all those years, for about a year and a half, I dedicated myself to that. And like, that's even what I'm telling my sons now is, if you just take a good year and you just find a people group that you really love, you feel called to, and you just make your life all about them. Don't worry about having life balance, especially if you're not married. Like if you're not married, and I'm telling my son, he's 18, don't worry about balancing your life right away. Pour yourself into something, and you'll never have to again wonder, what is my purpose? What am I going to do? And, that's what I did. And I think it's not directly tied to the book, but kind of, because that got me into that. And that's how I really found the Lord, found my faith. And then I realized, like, I don't have to have ministry over here and business over here. It can be one big mess. And I don't have to be compartmentalized anymore or anything like that. And it was such a relief to me. And so that is how, I really kind of found my faith. And I realized this, Brett. Now, last thing I'll say about this is, I came from the school of thought that I can become whatever I want to become. And that's what I'm going to do. I decide it. I do it. Like Think and Grow Rich on my back shelf. That was my Bible before the Bible. But when I became a Christian, I was like, I just knew, get into the word, pray a bunch with people, and just be around spirit-filled people as often as you can. That's all I knew. So that's all I did. But I did it to an extreme. And in that process, God changed me in ways I would have not even asked to have been changed. I desire things today I did not desire before. And the moment I realized this was, my goal in publishing was always to have this big CEO with all these jets, and we'd fly around the country and do his book, right? So I'm in a meeting with one of those CEOs, and he said, Jeremy, I have 7 jets. We could fly all over the country and launch this book. And he basically asked me if I would do that with him. And I thought, okay, great. Well, this is pretty fun. I go out in the parking lot, and in the parking lot of his business, this young guy calls me that I had been mentoring, and he was in our whole Warrior program, and he was addicted to gambling. And when they go away for a couple of weeks and they're not engaged at all, I know something's going on. And that's where he was at. He just called me and said, Jeremy, I'm back. My grandma has my checking account, and I'm not going to, she's in control of my finances. What do I do to get my life back on track? And I was more excited about that phone call, Brett, than that meeting I walked out of. And I thought, what has happened to me? Because this isn't going to be good for business. But I was like, I have something happen in me, and I didn't make it happen. And so that's what made me a believer in prayer, the word, Holy Spirit, everything was from just observing it in my life when I didn't even ask for it.
Yeah.
So a big, long-winded conversation that we went into from the book, but it all kind of got started from that.
Wow. Well, I love just so many different things you said. Thank you so much for sharing your story. By the way, it's very refreshing to have a business guy come on here, share his faith, to live out his faith, and to share his messiness before and still messiness, right? It's still a journey. And,
Oh, yeah.
and just thankful, that you talked about your son, just being around that group of people, just spending that time, just being still, right? And so many guys just need to hear that, whether they know it or not. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the man with the 7 jets wanting to share his book with the world? Do you know?
It was a really big company and it was really complicated because at the time, I think the company kind of was like, let's get him out. But he's since come back. So I was even thinking yesterday, I'm like, I'm going to send him a letter. And I think there's like a little business thing that I think people overlook. Mm-hmm. My business development. So we've got clients all over the country, all over the world, all those kind of things, whatever. We've got contractors, employees, almost every state. And my number one business development tactic is just writing a handwritten note and calling somebody up on the phone. Mm-hmm. I don't think anything's better than that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I'm going to write him a letter and say, let's get back on the bandwagon here. But I never did the book. Like we finished it. We never launched it or anything. And, if I had that opportunity again, I still probably wouldn't have taken the Jets thing because now it's totally different. Yeah. Now I'd say like, hey, if you want to hop in my Sprinter, I'll bring the 4 boys, my wife and our dog. Let's drive around. We've got a rooftop. We've got a cargo box up on top. We can fit a couple more bags in there, but that'd probably be the extent of it.
No, that's awesome. And then I want to ask you, so you talked about your dreams, your visions, you wanted to own some jets, fly around, you wanted all that too. So like today with this change in your life, change in your heart, how do you view your dreams now, your goals, like those big things, like how do you view that yourself?
Yeah, I still don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as the motivation is there. It's all about the heart with God. He just cares about our heart. So I still want to have all those things. So I'm going to go get my private pilot license. Hopefully this year I'll get it. It's for a totally different reason though. Now we've got employees in other side of the state, in Oregon and Missouri and in Georgia. And I'm like, I want to invest in people and I want to be back before supper if I can. So it's a totally different reason. Before it was just all about me. Even when I was in ministry, we're going to restart that Warrior Project now because I've got a funding mechanism for it. And I made the motto so it's self-funding. So it's going to be a ministry, but I'm not going to make it a 501c3 because I know how to make it fund itself. Mm-hmm. It was still about me back then. Like I still wanted, I was still super selfish, super self-centered. I still am in a lot of ways, but now those things are all for a different reason. God makes men, and I'm talking about men specifically here, like we're kings. Kings are to build wealth and power and influence and property and wield that for the benefit of other people. That is the ultimate measure of a man, I think, is what I have, what I'm after, what I've acquired, how am I wielding that and pouring that into other people? And if that's where my heart is, and God can help me work my heart out. So even when that isn't my true heart, as long as I'm committed to that and keeping those intentions pure, then it's going to work out and it's going to, we're still going to have craziness. Like the whole concept of new level, new devil is totally true because we're constantly, those kind of initiatives and goals are a declaration of war against the forces of darkness that are very real. And so I look at the business and everything that we want to do, even the Sprinter we just bought as a family, total dream come true for us, but it still is going to be a weapon we're going to use. And that we're going to, I really think there's a lot bigger things in store for us and what we realize of that little acquisition, but also for the whole pilot licensing and all the other things. Yeah. It's for a totally different reason now.
Yeah. Now, man, you're really speaking my language, and so I was just been thinking about, like, as entrepreneurs, we do have a lot of influence. We have a platform, right? And if we can get our mind wrapped around this is all the Father's business. It's like, wow. I mean, if more guys can come along and join together and unite with that message, that's awesome. So, thank you so much for sharing. I want to get back to a couple of the maybe logistics strategies of writing the book. So we talked about of why to write a book, right? It really, really helps change someone's life, helps with business credibility. And let's talk about, you have this burn process. So it's the BURN process. And this is a process that you use to help refine a message. So talk about that.
Yeah, that's great. And Brett, I really want to say thank you for giving me a platform here. I want to encourage anybody listening, like share this, write reviews. I know that helps the podcast out. So get this out there. If you're taking value from this, that's a great way you can support the podcast. So I appreciate that, Brett. And going back to burn, I think, when people usually come, they're saying, I've got a lot of stories. I've got a lot of content. There's a lot of things that could go in. And it's really easy to write a 300-page book. It's really easy. It's hard to write a 100-page book comparatively. Mark Twain said, if I had more time, the letter would be shorter. So what we do is we don't want to just do another book. Nobody wants to just do another book. We want to help people find their very best they can bring to the world. And so we developed the burn process for that. And the concept is, if I throw a bunch of materials into a fire, only the things of lasting value withstand the flames. I'm going to have diamonds, gold, and steel. And so that's what we want to do with people's content, their story, their ideas, is we want to burn them. We want to throw them into the fire so that we can find the things of lasting value. The diamonds that display beauty through testimony, the steel that gives strength, and the gold that is valuable for other people, so that they can not just do their next book or their third or fourth book, but their very best book they can produce. There's always more than people think, because we talk about there's street lessons and there's street skills that people acquire along the journey, but we can't see the picture when we're in the frame. So often people's very best content is things that they either are so natural at, they don't even realize it, or things that they learned that they didn't realize that they learned. So we do a lot of reverse engineering with people and going back and thinking through their stuff. Like an example is, if me and you were thrown into the jungle, we would either die or we become survival experts. And I don't know about you, you're in the house, you're in the home flipping, remodeling business. You do a lot of that. I'm not a handyman, Brett, but if me and you are in the jungle and I see a lion 100 feet that way, I am going to make a knife in like a minute. And if in the moment you ask me, like, Jeremy, how'd you make that knife? I'd be like, dude, I don't know. There's a lion there, and I'm going to run and trip you up maybe or something. Right. You're going to trip me.
That's right. You got to run faster than me.
Yeah. But imagine if we're 6 months removed from the jungle and we're sitting in a coffee shop and you say, Jeremy, remember when you made that knife? And I'd be like, yeah. How'd you do that? And if me and you reverse engineered that, we could have a little system for how you two can make a knife. And I could just leave that for my kids to say, hey, if you're ever in the jungle, here's how you make a knife. I could consult with other people of here's how you can make better knives. Me and you can make a whole manufacturing process and mass produce that knife, because I can almost promise you it'd be like any other knife on there, because I made it out of necessity, out of instinct, and in the moment. And that's where we pull people's content from. Yeah. And so that's what you want to do if you're thinking about writing your book right now, is you want to understand you have more than you think. There's more than you know, and you have more than you maybe realize you can deliver right now. And it just takes, whether it's people like us or even just a good friend, to say, hey, let me share my story with you. Let me talk to you about what I'm thinking and what do you see in me? We need community. We need other people to speak into us on that.
No, I love that. I love that. I have a lot of other questions, Jeremy. I know we got about 10 minutes left on this show. So I want to do something where I am a new client of yours, and I'm just going to ask you some different questions as a new client. Maybe you can give me some good answers. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm coming to you. I've always wanted to write a book, Jeremy. It's just been a bucket list of mine, and but I have no time. I mean, I run a business. I got 4 kids. I coach my kids basketball. I do date nights with my wife. I mean, I don't have any time to write a book, so I can't do it, man.
That's it. I say, awesome, Brett. We've been working with guys like you for 10 years. That's perfect. And you shouldn't put a bunch of time into writing a book. You're a successful entrepreneur. And what you've done is you've created process and put a good people around it so they can create great products for you and for your company. That's the same mentality you built successful businesses with, is how you're going to write this book. You're going to leverage our process, and that's what we're going to make sure that we can produce repeatable, quality work for you. And we're going to put the very best talent around that. And the process is going to amplify their talent even more. So the product is going to be the very best for you in your words, your voice, your tone, without spending your time. But I'd say perfect. Great. I'm glad you don't have any time. That's awesome.
Awesome. So I want to bring some clarity around that though, Jeremy.
Yeah.
So I'm a good speaker. I'm not really a good writer. So is what you're saying that someone else is going to like ghostwrite the book for me? Is that what you're saying? Or are you going to coach me to write the book myself? Talk to me a little bit about that. What is that?
Yeah. So we do have both. So we have programs where people actually get coached how to write their own book if that really matters to them and they want to. And we have probably 20, 30 books doing that right now. We have awesome writing coaches. But if it's a matter of I'm not a writer, so here's that. There's authors and there's writers. Authors employ writers. Writers can become authors, but authors aren't going to become writers. And here's the difference. A writer is somebody who says, I'm going to forge and create this message from this intention of the message that we want to create for the readers. The author is somebody who might employ that writer to say, I have a message. I'm not a writer, though. You're a writer. Let's work together. I'm going to give you my intention of what I want to deliver to my readers and my best ability. You're going to help me make it great. And we're going to work together. So you're an author. You're not a writer. And you don't need to be a writer to write or author a book. You're the author. So it's just like a piece of property. When you go and you flip a home, Brett, you don't necessarily go there and knock out the walls. You don't lay the carpet. You don't do all the work. It's still your product at the end of the day. You still own it. You're still proud of it. You have responsibility, shared success with your team, but you bring people in it with you to get it done. That's what you're going to do with your book.
I like it.
That makes sense?
No, it's good.
Put me right on the spot. I love this.
I like it. All right. So my next question though is okay, what if I put all this time and energy into this book and no one reads it? I mean, that stinks. That's a wasted effort. What if no one reads the book?
What's that?
What if no one reads the book? And how do I get people to read it?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And, I told you 8 out of 10 people want to write a book. Less than 3% actually do. And there's a very small percentage after that, their books are actually successful and they sell more than 20 copies of their book. So it's very common, Brett, for authors to put in all this work, all this time, all this money, and their book totally flops. And so that's what we really have a lot of strength in at Throne is we do the front end, help you get it written, make it high quality, but also the burn process, make sure that at any page I pick it up as a reader, I'm going to get value on and I'm going to share it with other people. And we do that with the end in mind. So your only goal is not about people reading it or about people buying it. There's over a dozen other ways you're going to monetize this book, and that the book and the message of the book is going to reach people with, even if they don't pick it up, even if they don't buy it. So you can do that. A lot of people do where they publish the book and it doesn't really go anywhere. But I go back to, again, if you're working with the right process, you have the right team around you producing a great product. And then it's another process where we enter in with the marketing. So I'd say that to you is there's one system of here's how we're going to get the book done. It's a whole other mentality, another process to making the book successful. And I just call it making the book work for you. And every author has a different goal in terms of how they define making the book work for them. So that's what you got to focus on after that. But it's all a part of the same thing, same mentality. And so it happens, but it won't happen if you're working with the right people, right process, and you're doing the right things from the very beginning. That's how you mitigate that risk.
No, I love that. So again, a lot of people they believe the lie that they have to sell books to make money. But in your line, you said really that's not the end goal. If you do, great, but really it's like it builds that credibility to get other leads, to get other deals, to help your business, right? It's just another tool, another marketing tool for you, right?
Another marketing tool that you can use for years and years and years, and you can repurpose. Every book should be a 12-month content marketing strategy as well. So like, I love selling books. Don't get me wrong. Like, we sell a lot of books, but even if somebody sells 10,000 copies, that's 10,000 times $10. There's still a lot more cash to be produced from a product like that. If you're going to put this much time and money into it, there's a lot more there. A book should be a little $1 million entity for everybody who produces it. If you do the right things and if you know how to monetize it.
I like that. The little $1 million entity. So that's good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good, Jeremy. So before we go to the last section of the show, thanks for playing my little game there. You run the business with your wife, Brooke. You have 4 strong boys. So talk to us about, like, you run this as a kind of a family thing, right? So talk to us about that and how do you, what's that dynamic look like?
Yeah, I mean it's a dance. So when my wife and I were laughing this weekend, we found videos when we were chronicling like our first couple of days in, and I was like, "Gosh, Brooke, I felt so bad for him. Like you poor woman, how did you ever stand this?" Because it's a dance in the beginning, and you mix business, which is complicated already, in with family, which is also complicated already. It could be a great, big, huge disaster and a mess.
Yeah.
That's why not many family businesses really last. But I think it's all about, if we really walk in what we are, like I got Proverbs sitting right here. It's my absolute favorite book in the world. If we really are in true to wanting to do that, we admit our mistakes when we do it, when we're paying attention to other people and what they want. My son's right here in this room over here, learning the real estate business in a way, just like you have done so well throughout your career, Brett. And it's just about being willing to be a little more patient, to being listen a little bit more, a little bit longer, but being strong when you need to be strong and being meek when you need to be meek and all that. And I think also too, going back to the thing I mentioned about being a good king and walking with the Lord, this business it's not just about how big can we make it, how fast can we grow it. That's just boring because you can do all that. Mm-hmm. That is easy. Business is easy. Making money is really easy. It's really simple. Money problem was when people say, "Hey, I don't have the money to do it." I think, is that the only problem? Yeah, it's a big problem though. Great, because that's the easiest problem we have to solve is money. Mm-hmm. It's so easy. You can count it. Like you can count and really measure. Mm-hmm. I have $1 and I need 10. I'm 9 short. Matters of the heart are not that they are not that easy. They're very difficult. They're very expensive. Like if somebody said to me, "Hey, I can't publish this book. I've got the money, but I'm just a thief." Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, I can't help you with that. Like if it was a money problem, I could help you. Mm-hmm. So it really is about putting the business in its proper place. And I'll tell you this really quick too. Last year, I spent the most money on my professional development in my career. I think it was just about $100,000. And I was like, this year, I told my wife, I'm like, I'm not going to do any more this year. I did enough last year. I'm going to really just apply it this year. And she's like, I wonder what would happen if we did the same amount of investment into our family. Mm. And I thought, wow, that's a really dangerous question, because now it's got me thinking about it. And I think I might do it because I really believe if we become better husbands and better leaders of our family, how could it not translate directly into our business? Mm-hmm. So I'm probably going to put that to the test. It's only the 5th of January, but I'm really like, that is a really great question.
That is good. I like that.
I got the answer.
I love that. Sometimes we put all this energy and focus and planning into our business, and we just wing it in our family life, right? I think that's.
Oh, and I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah.
Like I've definitely been guilty of that. There's some places I'm knocking it out, but there's some places where I go like, my wife was like, "We got to get clearer goals at the house," and I'm like, "What? We got clear goals?" And then I'm like, "Man, that is absolutely the truth." So I got to listen to my wife.
Yeah.
And take her lead on that and go, "Yeah, we got to put some more time into this stuff."
Yeah. Definitely. I love that. Jeremy, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I want to give you an opportunity. Where can someone find out about Throne Publishing Group?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Brett. Thanks so much. I want to say again, like guys, write a review, share this with somebody who you think would benefit from this, support the podcast that Brett put a lot of time, energy, money into this to bring you this value. So do support it. And if you want to search for us, we're all over. If you Google us, we're on Facebook at Throne Publishing, LinkedIn, but our website's thronepg.com. But if you just Google me and Throne Publishing, you'll be able to find us really easy. And we've got a lot of resources out there for people to just be able to get the ball rolling on your own with some free stuff we have out there for you. So I appreciate you letting me share that, Brett.
Yeah, sounds good. We're going to put those links too on the YouTube channel, guys. So go check out the YouTube channel in the description below, and you'll get that there in the Brett Snodgrass YouTube channel. And Jeremy, I always like to end every podcast with a couple of fun questions. These are all about books for you because you're publishing. So, all right, number 1, best book you've ever written. I know you wrote the first book, which you said was crappy. I don't know if you wrote another one other than that, but what's your best one you've written?
Yeah, I'm close to 20 right now. Personally, I think the best book I've ever I'm going to go with my first one. It was horrible, but it was my first one. I just had to get in the game. So I think I want to give people permission to do a crappy job. I'd rather have I'd rather have an okay finished product than a perfect unfinished product any day of the week.
That's good. That's good advice right there. All right. Best book you've recently read.
Best book I've recently read. I tell you what I got out on my desk now. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. by Robert Kiyosaki. That's a good old faithful classic, but I haven't read it in like 10 years. So I'm like, you know what? I want to get back in there. It gets me motivated. I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through it right now. And then I also busted out Fathered by God just again this morning because I'm like, I like revisiting old stuff and repetition for me. So when I read Fathered by God, the chapter is called Warrior. I read that chapter every day for almost a year. So I'm a huge fan is when you want to really get something into your heart to just repetition. So I am more often than I'm finding new books, I'm rereading old books.
I love that. Has your son read Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
He's doing it right now.
Okay.
So he's got to get through, I don't remember what page he's on right now, but he's got to get through that this week.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've interviewed a lot of real estate investors, and typically their number one book that changed their life was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So,
yeah, classic.
Any favorite books that you've recently published?
Oh my gosh, great question. This guy you would love. His name is Jonathan Lewis. It's called More Than Money. And it was all about stewardship, but he hit stewardship up from every single angle: relational, financial, physical, health, family, everything. Awesome guy. Awesome book. He lives in Nova Scotia, Canada. Super dude. You would absolutely love him, Brett. But he's one of, I love our authors. I literally love every single one of them. I'm super pumped about his book. We got another guy who's I'm saying he's doctors from all over the world come to him to learn. And he is a functional medicine doctor who brings in like metabolic healing, neurological healing, mixes it all together. I'm heading down to Dallas next week to spend a couple of days with him and a couple hundred other doctors just like him, learning from him. And his second book is coming out and he's licensing his book out to other doctors. It's a big mess of just greatness with these guys. Wow. So I love these people, and they're truly about the people that they're writing for and their readers.
That's awesome.
Dr. Andy Barlow is the other guy.
Awesome. Sounds good. I just write down these. I always get these books, so I'm writing down. So guys, check out those books as well as they come out. So thank you. That's a wrap with Jermemy Brown. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Jeremy. It's been an honor, man. Appreciate you and your faith. God bless you and your family.
Hey, right back to you. Thanks for having me on, Brett.
Thank you so much for checking out the Brett Snodgrass channel. If you like this video, please slam on that like button. And if you really like it, then subscribe to our channel here. And remember to leave us a comment below, and I'm going to try my hardest to reply to all the comments. Thank you guys so much. This is why I do what I do. Every single week, I come out with content that focuses on success, freedom, and living out your purpose. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.